So when Joe Vegan made his latest comeback, you know, some people appreciated his new comedy videos and thought they were very funny. You could see that in the comment section. But a lot of people said, wow, his new videos are not funny at all. You know, the spark is gone. Whatever it was that made the videos funny before was gone. Comedy was part of my life when I was younger, and I really took a turn at one point when I realized it wasn't for me. And I'm reminded of, you know, the factors that went into that decision when I look at the latest collapse of Joe Vegan. I really think it's easy to underestimate the extent to which all of that has to come from a place of love and admiration and positive aspirations for the future. In those days when he first got started, there was a lot of love in the game. He loved veganism as a social movement. He loved the content on my channel and the people laughing with the videos. For them also, there was this sense of veganism being a lofty ambition, and then the contrast between that ambition and how absurd these, you know, political squabbles were. You know, whatever, Durian Ryder saying that I'm fat, or whatever the controversy of the day was, right? The respect and admiration he had for veganism as a concept and a movement is gone. And what's left just seems like a bitter, angry shell of a man. You know, you might think that bitterness is a great source for comedy, but it's not. That's what's really instructive to me.
Joe Vegan's video has nothing to do with the YouTube community, veganism as a whole. This is only an adult crying, not taking responsibility for his own actions and his own mistakes. Nobody told you to do anything. You made that decision, and that's it. Blame yourself, not other people. Stop being a coward. Give the money back to everyone that donated money to you for this animal sanctuary. And if you don't give the money back, you are a scam artist.
I've got a few different things on my mind in this video. I'm going to talk about comedy and the theater and the strange kind of social engagement those art forms require from you, which is in some ways similar to politics in my heart and in my mind. And I'm going to talk about why I decided not to be involved with theater, not to be involved with comedy, which I easily could have done. My whole life would be very different today if I'd stuck with, you know, stand-up comedy at least. Just something you can easily do as a hobby while you're pursuing other jobs, even when you're living in Asia, even when you're living in strange parts of Canada or what have you. You'd be surprised. You know, there are open mic nights everywhere. There are comedy clubs that'll have you. And with stand-up, you know, you don't need a cast and crew. You don't need a bunch of costumes. If you just have a pen and paper and you write down funny ideas when they come to you, you can very, very easily keep up, you know, stand-up comedy as a hobby. Even if you're living in Hong Kong, even if you're living in Saskatchewan, and I've been living in both, you know.
Now, one time did he blame himself for his mistakes. All he kept doing was blaming other people, bashing him about not doing the right thing. You decided to do it. You chose to do it. Adult decision. You're an adult. You did it. Blame yourself.
Joe Vegan quit before, and he sort of quit again now after saying he would never quit, that he was going to hold on to his social media presence and so on. Whew, conflicted guy. So when Joe Vegan made his latest comeback, you know, some people appreciated his new comedy videos and thought they were very funny. You could see that in the comment section. But a lot of people said, wow, his new videos are not funny at all. You know, the spark is gone. Whatever it was that made the videos funny before was gone. And you also saw a few people who were kind of reflecting back on it and saying, wow, maybe I was wrong all along. Maybe Joe Vegan never was funny. You know what I mean? Like maybe they remembered it as being funny, but it had never had the spark, that it had never really been worth watching that way. So that was interesting to see that range of opinions. Now, I tend to agree. I felt that the new videos he made just a couple of comedy videos in this short-lived comeback. I agree. I don't think they were funny. But I think what was missing, that can be much more specific, isn't just some nebulous notion of a spark. It's not like the guy lost his talent. But, you know, with all these art forms, as with political campaigning, I really think it's easy to ignore the role of love in the game. You know, when I was involved in comedy, I ultimately came to the conclusion that I didn't have enough love for my audience to want to make them laugh. You know what I mean? And with something like stand-up, you know, some stand-up comedians, their persona is harsh and castigating, and they ridicule the audience. But still, the whole engagement with the society you're living in and the people you're making fun of, even the people you parody, there really has to be a kind of love there, you know? Maybe that's not the way other people use the word love. I mean, obviously we're not talking about romantic love. We're not talking about love in another sense. But, I mean, there really is a sense in which, put it this way, you can't be making jokes on stage with the attitude and the feeling in your heart of this'll keep those bastards happy. You know, it can't be a grudging relationship between boss and employee. You know, I think there really does have to be a strange sort of love there for the subject matter you're portraying on stage, for the audience you're reaching out to, the reactions you're getting from the audience. It's a very peculiar thing. And I had to recognize one day, I looked at myself in the mirror, you know, so I wasn't born in Toronto, but most of my schooling, most of my upbringing was in Toronto, Canada. And I could look around, I mean, you're talking about white, English-speaking Toronto society. It is just a culture that I despise. It's a culture I don't want to be a part of. It's an audience I don't want to cater to. What they find funny, I don't find funny. And when I make a joke that they do find funny, I despise that joke and I despise the audience for laughing at. You know what I mean? I just realized in terms of my position in that culture, in, you know, white English-speaking Toronto, Canada, I would be miserable. And I just did not have enough love in the game to make comedy work for me, or for me to work for the audience. You know what I mean?
This is something that you have an issue with, Joe Vegan. You seem to care very much what other people think about you, and that affects your life. You have to blame nobody but yourself about that. You made the decision, that's your business.
And in a weird sense now, I mean, I'm now teaching university classes of students, you know, 40 students at a time. And it's brought back to my mind so often because you really work the crowd. You know, sometimes as a teacher, you're being silly and getting the students to laugh, and sometimes you're being serious. The dynamics of how you work the crowd, I stand behind a podium, and then I come down and walk in the audience and talk to people. It really reminds me of the experience of when I was young, being involved with theater and being involved with comedy, and brings back a lot of these reflections to my mind. I think a lot of you might not be aware of the extent to which, you know, Joe Vegan, when he first started doing comedy, I think I was the first person he really did an impersonation of. His comedy channel, it really did evolve kind of organically. So first he started doing this impersonation of me, and then there was another turning point, the first time he did an impersonation of Charles, of the Vegan Cheetah. That was a little bit, I forget if it was a couple weeks later, or a couple videos later, whatever it was. But, you know, so then he had this full stable of impersonations. Because first he was impersonating me, and then he started really putting some effort into impersonating Durian Rider and having Durian Rider and me talk to each other. Then I remember the first time Charles came on camera, his impersonation of Charles. And then he had a whole stable of characters. And people loved it. People went nuts. And when he first did it the first couple of times, you know, he didn't have a wig. He didn't have the bald wig. He just had all of his hair. But he just did his kind of wacky impression of a Canadian accent and made up this spontaneous stuff about me. But, you know, in those days when he first got started, there was a lot of love in the game. He loved veganism as a social movement. He loved the content on my channel. And he wrote to me to tell me that. I got email from him saying how deeply he respected the content on à-bas-le-ciel, how he and his wife had watched the videos together and it had really changed their lives and improved their outlook on these political issues and so on, how much they appreciated me. Now, I know to an outsider that might not be obvious, that, you know, at that time he was ridiculing me, but it was ridicule that came from a place of love and respect and admiration and being passionate about the vegan movement as a whole. We can all sit back and laugh at my tiny role in the vegan movement. Believe me, I laugh at myself all the time. I laugh at the ridiculous, you know, elements of this. But still, I mean, as harsh or castigating or critical as some of his comedy may have been in those early days, it was coming from a place of love. And I saw the turning point when he started to really kind of hate me, which was before he quit the first time. I felt at that point the spark really went out of his comedy, the comedy that was about me, you know. Maybe it didn't go out of his jokes about Durian Rider and some other people. I mean, I remember another turning point. The first time his wife came on camera playing the role of Vegan Ava. That was the hardest I ever laughed on his channel, you know. And it was so unexpected. His wife came out doing this phony Eastern European accent. And when she first came on, I didn't recognize her. You know, so I thought it was another YouTuber, but I didn't know who she was. And then it clicked. Oh my God, that's his wife wearing a wig or whatever, you know? And wow, that really had me floored. But all of it, I mean, it wasn't coming from a place of, you know, harsh condemnation for the vegan movement. There was love in the game. I think he even had love for vegan Ava. You know what I mean? I think he did talk. He had a mix of love for and hatred for someone like Durian Rider too. You know.
This is the same guy who had a niche on YouTube bashing other vegans for entertainment. His channel last year was all about the vegan drama, bashing people, picking on people, calling people out, you know, just embarrassing people to make a good video. And that was, this is Joe Vegan, the same guy crying about people are bashing him. You are bashing people too.
I think the people laughing at the videos and the people laughing with the videos, for them also there was this sense of veganism being a lofty ambition, and then the contrast between that ambition and how absurd these, you know, political squabbles were. You know, whatever, Durian Rider saying that I'm fat or whatever the controversy of the day was, right? That was really, I mean, it's not about the spark in his eyes. That was the light that made the whole thing shine, that made the, you know, the audience so excited about it at the time. And people really did get excited. And at one point, of course, he had a much smaller audience than I did. And then I got to see his audience grow even bigger. And it's like, okay, I remember explaining that to my Chinese teacher, saying, you know, there's this other channel that does like a weekly show impersonating me. Because I was a regular character on this show. You know, there's a fictional version of me. And the fictional version of me is more popular than I am. You know, there are more viewers showing up to watch it. I was explaining that in Chinese to my Chinese teacher and having a laugh about it. You know, it's so absurd. But again, I really think it's easy to underestimate the extent to which all of that has to come from a place of love and admiration and positive aspirations for the future. I think that would be similar. I mean, like someone like Chris Rock making fun of black radical politics or something. You know, it can't come from an absolute distaste for, you know, black left-wing politics. There has to be some feeling of, you know, aspiring to the same things that political movement aspired to or hope for the future. You know, there's got to be some love in the game. What's saddening to me is, you know, the respect and admiration he had for me is gone, needless to say. The respect and admiration he had for veganism as a concept and a movement is gone. And what's left just seems like a bitter, angry shell of a man. He hates himself. He's self-loathing because he's a failure. And he's even flunked out of veganism, apart from flunking out of his particular, you know, fundraising project and so on. And, you know, you might think that bitterness is a great source for comedy, but it's not. That's what's really instructive to me about this example.
I can promise you, people gave you money. They donated money to you because they wanted to support another vegan. And that's what they thought you were. And this is what you do. I think you should give the money back to everyone that donated money to you for this animal sanctuary. That's what I think. It just feels like a lot of these people, you know, your vegan cheetahs, your Nikocado avocados, your Joe Vegans, it seems like these people were never vegan in the beginning. It was just so easy to say, I can't be vegan anymore. Clearly, this is an adult not taking responsibility for his or her own actions. That's what's going on, and that's what Joe Vegan is trying to say. I'm too much of a coward to blame myself for my mistakes. This has nothing to do with the vegan community and why a Joe Vegan decides not to be vegan.
So look, guys, one closing thought about this. I made a comment to another YouTuber recently because this YouTuber was talking on his own channel about taking on a new direction. And I said, he's a guy who does basically news about stuff that's happening within YouTube. I said to him, look, you know what the truth is? What you're doing really is too safe. A YouTube channel that reports on things happening on other YouTube channels is never going to have the edge, is never going to have the thrill, is never going to have the profundity or the entertainment value of a channel that is actually aspiring to do something impossible. You're way better off. Try to set your sights high. Try to do something impossible. Try again and again. Try 100 times over. And, you know, your greatest failures you can put up on camera, put up on YouTube. You can upload. And I do think that is the light and the life behind what's going on in digital veganism right now. However absurd our failures may be, whether they're on a tiny scale or an enormous scale, whether it's a fundraiser to build a new farm, or it's me doing a fundraiser to publish my children's storybook. I've got the artist on lock. You know, the children's storybook has been translated into 5 languages. I've got Japanese, Russian, Chinese, German, English. It's this great project. But, you know, whether it's a tiny project or a huge project, whether it's a weight loss fad or a festival in Thailand, or, you know, all of veganism fundamentally is attempting the impossible. Trying to save the planet, trying to make the world a better place, trying to convince our own grandparents to give up eating bacon. You know what I mean? Whether it's trying to save one person's life, you know, as a heart condition, but just won't stop eating animal products, won't stop eating, you know, cheese and beef and what have you, or it's on the enormous scale of being worried about what's happening to our lakes and rivers, air pollution, and so on. There are so many dimensions to veganism. With a sense of scale is just bewildering. You know, it dwarfs us. It makes us feel tiny and powerless. And we're every day attempting to do the impossible, or we're aspiring to do the impossible, whether that's in protest movements or lobbying organizations. And that, I think, is the thrilling energy that makes what we're all doing here on YouTube exciting and inspiring and enjoyable, whether you're uploading what I eat in a day videos, or bikini videos, or grocery shopping videos, or comedy videos, or like me, you want to come on and just talk about your own life experience and politics and your hopes of the future. Okay, guys? So let's all try to keep that in mind. Let's be at peace with the fact that we're a bunch of people who turn on the computers and want to feel some sense of kinship and community with other people who share that positive aspiration to do the impossible.
Keep it steady, right there. Don't switch it up. The rhythm is perfect. Don't switch it up. Keep it steady, right there. Don't switch it up.